This is my moment, watch me shine. I'm unstoppable, feel it in my soul. Good vibes only, I'm in control. Turn the music up, let the rhythm roll. I move my body, I'm alive, I glow. Unstoppable, dancing through the fire. Every step higher, taking me higher. Smile so big, can't hold it in. Good vibes, good life, let's begin. Every scar made me wiser. Every tear lit the fire. I don't fear what's ahead.
And I am live, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. This is Aranas. I am the face behind this personal page, business page, and my YouTube page. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? Good evening, good afternoon. Uh, Good morning, wherever you are, guys. So, again, this is a part of my 90 days goal live success challenge that I have been doing with my team and some of my business partners doing this business. And the reason behind this go live is all about um, it's all about faith, family, and purpose. And for those of you who doesn't know me, again, uh, I've been doing this business for 6 years now, and I love everything about this. And also, I'm still working. I have a corporate job, and I'm a mother of two beautiful kids, and a boy and a girl. And they are the reason why I started this business 6 years ago. And tonight is my day 12 of this Go Live. And tonight's topic is all about a mistake I made early on, whether it's my personal journey or my career journey or my business journey as well. And this is something that I really want to share it with you guys because I know that you've been through this journey too. And it's always nice to share my experience so you can learn something from that. And thank you. Thank you, True Genius. Yeah. And yeah, so maybe you can learn from me, from my mistakes, so you cannot implement that in your life as well. So what I got wrong in my first 30 days, because it's here, a mistake you made early on. What did you get wrong in your first 90 days? What would you tell that version of you? Right? So again, tonight I really want to talk about something a little different. I don't want to talk about everything I did right. Okay, I want to talk what I got wrong, because sometimes we look at someone who has been doing something for years and we only see where they are today. We don't see the beginning, the confusion, the mistakes, and the moments when they question themselves. We don't also see the times when they were learning everything for the first time. And tonight, I want to take you back to my first 90 days, because if I could sit across from the woman I was when I first started my online business, I would have so much to tell her, and maybe some of you watching tonight are that person right now. And maybe you're just starting, maybe you're thinking about starting too, and maybe you've been doing something for a few months and wondering, am I doing this right? What am I not seeing the results I expected? Maybe I'm not good at this too, right? Maybe everybody else knows something I don't. If that's you, I really want to stay with me, because I made mistakes too. And one of the biggest mistake wasn't technical. It wasn't social media, it wasn't marketing, it wasn't because I didn't have the right equipment. My biggest mistake was I thought I needed to know what I was doing before I could become successful, right? And looking back today, guys, I realized I had it completely backwards. So for the first 90 days when I started this business, I didn't come from online business background. I came from banking, working there for 20 years. That was the world I understood. I only knows the language of banking and not anything online, right? I spent years building my career. Of course, I understood responsibility, leadership, showing up, taking care of my clients, taking care of my team, and following the process. But in the online world, business, marketing, creating content, talking about strangers online, building my personal brand, that was a completely different world for me. And I remember I started during my maternity leave of absence when I was holding my 4-month-old son. I was a mom. I had responsibilities. I had a career. I wasn't sitting there saying I have nothing else to do. Maybe I'll start an online business. No, I was looking at my life differently. I was looking at my family, my children, and I started asking myself bigger questions. And what kind of life am I actually creating, right? And how much of my children's lives am I going to miss because I'm always working? Because it's a repetition. I miss a lot of milestones for my baby girl, and all of a sudden I have my son, and then I don't want to repeat the process again. So I also even question myself, is one income source enough? What happens if something changes in my career, right? And that was during the pandemic time. I don't know if my job was really secured back then. That's why I had to find a way. I had to ask great questions to myself. And most importantly, is there another way? And what happened is I opened my mind. I become open-minded, but opening your mind doesn't mean all your fears disappear. Of course, I still had doubts. I still question myself. I still question things around me. I didn't know what I was doing. And during those first 90 days, I made a mistake, a lot of mistake that I think many beginners make because, of course, I wasn't tech savvy back then. I don't have any idea what the heck I am doing too, right? But I remember mistake number one that I did is I was too focused on results. When you started the business, you want the result right away. you know I wanted proof. I want to know, is this going to work, right? And I wanted the answer quickly as much as I can. Can anybody relate to that, right? You start something new, immediately you're checking the results. You post something, then you check, did anybody like it? Did anybody comment, right? Did anybody message me? You talk to somebody and you're already thinking, are they going to join, right? You go through training and you're thinking, when am I going to make money, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting results. We are building a business. Results matter, of course, but here's what I didn't understand. My first 90 days weren't only about producing results, they were about producing me, right? The person capable of creating those results. That's completely different, right? I was learning. I was in the process of developing my skills. I am building my confidence, right? And learning how to communicate with people virtually because I am an in-person person. I love communicating in person, not like in the virtual world. And learning how to listen to, learning how to tell my story to the world that I never thought that I am capable of doing that because before I'm too personal. I don't want to share my story to anyone, right? And learning how to handle rejection too. Learning how to continue even when nobody was clapping. And those things didn't always show up immediately in my income, but they were building something inside of me. Totally. Today I understand this. Before your business grows on the outside, sometimes normally has to grow on the inside. And that was a lesson for me. And mistake number two is I always compared my beginning to someone else's middle. This one is huge, guys. You enter an online business and suddenly you're surrounded by successful people. Someone is celebrating their sale, their rank, they travel, uh, They have hundreds of comments, they have thousands of followers, and seem so confident speaking also online. And then you look at yourself and you shrink, right? You're sitting there trying to figure out how to make a post. And you think and think, why am I not there yet? Right? But what I forgot to ask was, how long have they been doing this? I only see the proof. That's the problem. I let my the reality in control of my emotions, of my own thinking, and I didn't even think how far they have been training their mind to think differently, and how much skill they have, right? And I just started the business, right? I was looking at somebody else chapter 20 and start judging myself because my chapter 1 didn't look the same. Is that fair? I don't think so. That's not fair at all, right? Imagine planting a seed today, then walking over to a tree that's been growing for 10 years and saying to your little seed that, look at that, why aren't you a tree yet, right? That's what comparison does. It makes you disrespect your own season. So if I could speak to the old version of me, I would say, Araneth, stay in your lane. Learn, grow, observe, be inspired by people who are succeeding, but don't use somebody else's success to punish yourself. Their success is not evidence that you're behind. Their success is evidence of what might be possible. So that was a huge for me, and I learned a lot from that. Instead of me being jealous of their success, I'm actually celebrating with them, and I want to learn from them. You know. And mistake number 3, I thought I needed to be perfect. Woo, that was a big one. I thought everything needed to look right. The post needed to sound right. The video needed to look right. I needed to say the right thing. I don't want people judging me. I didn't want people thinking that, what is she doing? Right? And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You record the video, you watch it, you delete it. You record it again, delete it. You write your post, you read it 20 times, and then you don't post it, right? That was the thing that I have done in the past. Like, I don't feel comfortable enough to post. I don't even like my voice back then. That's the reason why, like, oh my gosh, like, it's not good to be like really too perfect. It's always nice to be imperfect and just respect your flaws, because again, that's something that we can learn from too. It's giving you feedback. And then something that I've learned from other people is, those people who made a boo-boo and make a mistake in their goal lives, actually the one that get the most engagement. Being authentic, right? Because you can actually resonate to other people, right? And then, yeah, and meanwhile, yeah, I remember those. Meanwhile, someone else made a video that wasn't perfect, and they posted it and connected with somebody. That's when I learned, perfect doesn't build your business. Consistency does. People don't need perfection from you. They need connection, the honesty, right? They need to understand who you are. And sometimes the video where your hair isn't perfect, right? Or your words aren't perfect, especially me. Every time I get so excited, I mumble, because like I talk so fast, so that's why I need to learn and calm down a little bit so I will not swallow my own words, right? Yeah, and your background isn't perfect too, might be the video that reaches somebody because it's real, it's very authentic, right? And mistake number 4 is, oh my God, thought everyone needed to understand me. This was difficult. It's difficult to swallow. When you do something different, you naturally want people around you to understand. You want your friends to support you. You want your family members to understand. You want people to say, wow, that's amazing. I believe in you. But that's not always what happened. Sometimes people question you. Sometimes, Ocean. Oh my God. I have a son over here who was just like he was something and he's just like do following what he's watching, right? And then yeah, so sometimes they think you're crazy. And sometimes they're silent, and that silent can hurt you, especially when you're already questioning yourself. But here's what I eventually learned: not everybody has to understand your vision, guys, because they didn't receive your vision. You did. I couldn't keep waiting for outside permission to build something I felt called to build. If I could talk to the old me, I'd tell her, stop asking people who don't understand your dream to validate it. You don't need everybody. You need that belief, that mentorship. You need a community of like-minded of people that can support you as well. And you need to keep going, right? And mistake number five, I was trying to do too much. Yes. Oh my God. This is something I see beginners doing all the time. That's why they become so overwhelmed. They aren't, I mean, they start a business and suddenly they're trying to learn everything. Learning how to render ads on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, in YouTube. They do everything, right? And they do the, yes, they could do the content, the editing, the reels, the story, lives, everything. And then what happens? They get so overwhelmed. Like in our business world, people, because they want to get the result immediately, and you have to, you know, shortcut the training, and then boom, you're lost, right? That's what that's get people overwhelmed. That's what that's something that I would change, right? If I could restart my first 90 days, I would simplify: one message, one audience, one platform, and one daily activity that moves the business forward. And I would repeat it again and repeat it again until I master it, because success doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes success comes from doing fewer things better and longer. And I remember one of my coaches in personal development world about the style of Bruce Lee. I am not afraid to an opponent practice multiple moves, right? A million moves, but I am afraid to an opponent practice one move 1,000 times, right? Because you don't know that once you have that once you become an expert to that, and then you become good at it, and that can be your weapon, right? Because you know already the in and outs of that, right? So yeah, so that's something that I've learned from Bruce Lee, right? So mistake number six, I didn't understand the power of my story. Early on, I thought I needed to sound like somebody who already knew everything. And today, I will do the opposite. I will talk about why I started the business, about being a mom, about building a career and still wondering if there was another way. I talk about wanting more time with my family. I talk about being skeptical, about learning, investing in myself, and about being scared, because that is what people connect with. Your story doesn't have to be dramatic to matter. Your story simply has to be yours. Someone out there may not relate to your mentor, they may not relate to the top earner, but they may relate to you because they were used to be. You are looking the old version of you to them. That's why I always tell people, don't underestimate your story. Your story may be the bridge that helps somebody believe they can do something different too. Okay. So mistake number seven is I took rejection too personally. Oh, that was painful. Yeah, and let's talk about this one. Someone says no. Someone leaves you on read. Someone watches everything and never responds. Someone tells you you're a scammer, right? Someone tells you they're not interested and they disappear, right? I mean, they are interested and then they disappear. Early on, you think, what did I do wrong? You started questioning yourself again. But eventually, you understand not every no is rejection. Sometimes it's timing, sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes they have other priorities in life. Sometimes it's simply not for them. And that is okay. My responsibility isn't to convince everyone. My responsibility is to share, to educate, to serve, and to answer their questions honestly and allow another adult to make their own decisions. That changed everything for me, guys, because now the conversation isn't how I get this person to say yes. It's how can I help this person get clarity, and that's what they called leadership. And mistake number 8, I thought confidence came before action. This is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned so far. I kept thinking, when I'm confident, I'll do the video. When I know more, I'll go live, right? When I'm ready, I'll speak, right? But confidence doesn't normally come first. Actions comes first. Then confidence follows. You don't become confident and do the hard things. You do the hard things first, and eventually your mind says, wait, I've done this before. I can do this again, right? That's how confidence grows. You do your action, then repetition, then from repetition, you can experience, then you can get feedback from that, and now you can improve yourself, then more actions. It's repetition, right? So, what would I tell myself today? If the version of me from those first 90 days was sitting here tonight, I think I would look at her and say, you're doing better than you think. Because you stop rushing, you stop comparing, then you stop I mean you stop thinking you need to have everything figured out. You're learning, right? You're becoming that person that you want to be, and everything your experience right now is teaching you something you're going to use later on. That those uncomfortable videos, keep making them anyway, and that's something that I've learned. This conversation you're afraid to have them. Those people who don't understand you, love them anyway. Sending them love and light. You don't need to prove anything. The people who say no respect your decision. The post nobody reacts to, keep creating, right? Keep recording. And the days you question yourself, always go back to your why, right? Why did you started the business anyway, right? And most importantly, don't quit on a future you haven't met yet. Okay, so I would tell her to work on herself, right? Like just like what I did. I invest in my personal development, and if I could go back to, I would spend even more time working on my mindset, because eventually I realized something. You can have the strategy, the system, the tools, the mentor, and the opportunity. But if your own thinking keeps telling you, I'm not good enough, right? I'm not ready, nobody will listen to me. What will people think about me, right? Then you're fighting yourself every single day. That's why personal development for me became so important, because I realized the business wasn't only building my income, the business is also building me, my confidence, my communication, my leadership, my self discipline, my self image, right? My faith, the ability to handle challenges and to believe before I could see the result. And this morning we have been studying the XY factor, right? Yeah, and this is something that I learned from my mentor from studying personal development led by my mentor Bob Proctor. Think about the XY. X is your current conditioning. your belief, your habits, your self image, the voice you're saying, people like me don't deserve this, right? I'm not a salesperson. I'm not good on camera, right? I don't know enough. What will my friends say, right? Then there's a why, right? Why is the new idea, the new goal, the person you're trying to become? So you say, I'm going to build a successful business online, right? That's why. But but X says, excuse me, since when, right? And that's where resistance comes in. That's fear. You procrastinate. You're overthinking. You make excuses. Your perfectionism, right? And sometimes we think resistance means we're going in the wrong direction. It's not necessarily. Sometimes resistance simply means you're doing something your old identity isn't familiar with yet. And that changed how I look at fear, right? So if I started again tomorrow, guys, you know, uh, or let me change language. If somebody took everything away tomorrow and told me start again, here's what I will do differently. For my first 30 days, I would focus on learning and showing up, not being perfect, not being famous, not making everything complicated. I will just learn, post, talking, listening, and connecting. For days 31 through 60, I would look at what's working. What question are people asking me? What content gets conversation started, right? Who am I naturally connecting with? What part of my story resonates to my audience, right? And I would do more of that. For the first 61 to 90 days, I would improve, not reinvent everything. Improve my conversations, my follow up, my content, probably the way storytelling, right? That still I'm learning, right? And continue to build my self discipline as well and improve my consistency. That's it. You learn, you implement, you observe, you improve, right? Then you gotta repeat that. And I wouldn't spend my first 90 days changing direction every week. I would compare myself every day. I wouldn't compare myself every single day. I wouldn't buy every shiny new tool, you know, and I wouldn't pretend to somebody else that I am not, right? And I wouldn't chase every new social media trend. I see some other people doing that, and I wouldn't quit because something didn't happen quickly. And I definitely wouldn't wait until I felt ready, because now I know ready isn't a feeling. Sometimes ready is simply making a decision, right? So yeah, so think about this. Nobody starts college and expects to become a doctor in 90 days, right? Nobody goes to the gym for the next 3 weeks and says, why don't I look like someone who's been training for 10 years, right? Nobody plants a tree today and let's get angry tomorrow because there's no fruit. Yet we started a business. And sometimes expect immediate mastery. No, it doesn't work that way. Give yourself permission to learn first, right? The way you can communicate with other people, and then the way you say yes. Every yes, teaches you something, and every no teaches you something, right? So just look into that. And here's the beautiful part. Some of the things I used to be afraid of eventually became things I could teach other people, right? Think about that. The thing you're learning today couldn't become the thing you're helping somebody with tomorrow, right? The confidence you're building today could help somebody believe in themselves again, right? The mistake you're making today could become a story that saves somebody else months of frustration. And that's mentorship. And that's the reason why in our business community, because I have new people joining my team and they really don't know what they're doing. Like, oh my goodness, I've been there. because they ask questions, and every time they ask question is the one that I experience already, and now I am more confident to help them, right? Yeah, and that's a big experience, and that's a really good mentorship. A mentor isn't somebody who never made mistakes. No, a mentor is somebody can who can turn their experience into a lesson that shortens someone else's learning curve. And that's why I don't regret my mistakes. I actually embrace them. I'm grateful I made mistakes because now I know what to do next time. Now I can help my team, right? Would I do some things differently? Absolutely. But would I erase those experiences? No, because they built me as a person, as a mentor, as a better coach too, right? So again, don't confuse a slow beginning with a bad decision. And I really want you to remember that. A slow beginning doesn't automatically decision, right? Sometimes you're simply learning. Sometimes you build foundations nobody can see. Sometimes your roots are growing before anything appears above the ground. And sometimes God, whatever you believe in, the source, the infinite intelligence, is developing the person before giving them the responsibility to comes with the result. So don't rush your season. Learn from it, right? So what will your future self say if you do this, right? If you think about it, imagine yourself 3 years from today, not tomorrow, not next week, not not today, right? 3 years. Imagine you've stayed consistent and you develop those confidence, improve your communication, build something you're proud of, and you started helping people, and you've grown so much a stronger version of yourself. Now imagine the future version of you I could come back and talk to you tonight. What would she say, right? Would she say, "I'm so glad you stopped because somebody didn't like your post"? Probably not. She'd probably say, "Thank you for continuing," right? "Thank you for not quitting," right? "Thank you for believing in me and getting back up every time I fall. Thank you for not allowing temporary defeat or results to make a permanent decision. So thank you for becoming me," right? Yeah, so that's something that I really want to share it with you guys tonight. But again, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is if I had to summarize everything I got wrong in my first 90 days into one lesson, I would be this. I was uh, I was looking for the business to prove itself to me before I fully prove my to myself what I was willing to grow. I wanted certainty. But again, entrepreneurship doesn't give you certainty first. It gives you an opportunity. Then you decide who you're going to become with. And today, now I understand. I didn't need to know everything. I needed to be coachable, to be consistent, to willing to learn and keep showing up, right? And and this is why mentorship matters so much to me today. A mentor's responsibility isn't to carry you to. A mentor shouldn't make every decision for you. And a mentor shouldn't build your business for you. A good mentor helps you see what you cannot yet see. They shorten the learning curve, they challenge your thinking, they become your blind spot, because they can see that. They remind you of what you're capable of, but eventually you have to walk, right? And that's something I would tell the younger version of me too. Listen to your mentors, learn from people who have gone before, but don't become dependent on somebody else's confidence. Borrow their belief. That's what I did, for a while if you need to, but eventually you build your own belief. Because again, leadership begins when you stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start saying, I'm going to learn how. Tell me, right? So here's the thing. My last is my, I could, if I could finish tonight by sitting beside that woman from 6 years ago, the mom who didn't know exactly where this journey will take her, I will tell her, just keep going. You're going to learn things you don't even know you need to learn yet. You're going to meet people you haven't met yet. And you're going to experience challenges that will test you. And you're going to have moments where you question yourself. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have things that don't work, and you're going to grow. But please, don't judge the whole journey by the first 90 days. Okay? Don't judge your potential by your current skill level. Don't judge your future by today's result, and never ever compare that person who just started, to the woman you're still becoming, right? And one day you're going to look back at this version of yourself and realize, oh, she wasn't failing. She was learning at all, right? She wasn't behind. She was becoming that person, right? She wasn't wasting her time. She was actually building the foundation. And one day, the things that once scared her will become the things she teaches other people. And that's the reason why I'm here, sharing you my experience. So tonight, guys, I really want you to ask yourself, what am I judging myself for right now, simply because I haven't mastered it yet? Maybe it's a business, maybe it's speaking, right? Creating content, maybe your leadership, your confidence, maybe it's starting over. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to be a beginner. I'm always a student. I tell her that. Anything that I learn, I had to unlearn, because that's the only way that I grow. Especially if I work in a bank, right? And then I leave that the bank, and I'm gonna go and apply for another bank because my boss left the old bank and she was hiring me to work at her current bank. You know what I do? I had to unlearn what I've learned from the old bank and start learning uh the new system of this new bank, and had to stop comparing myself to, that's why you give yourself permission to be a beginner, but don't give yourself permission to stay there forever. Learn, grow, apply, repeat, right? You may not be exactly where you want to be yet, but if you consistently show up, you should not be the same person you are tonight. And sometimes this is the first real sign that everything is beginning to change too. So, the old version of me, thank you for starting before you were ready, right? Thank you for being scared and doing it anyway. Thank you for making mistakes, and thank you for learning. Thank you for knowing where the road would lead and still taking the next step. Because the woman I am today, guys, needed the woman you were willing to become. And to anyone is watching tonight who's at the beginning of their journey, your first 90 days do not have to prove how successful you're going to become. Okay? They need to prove one thing, that you're willing to become the person capable of creating the life you said you wanted. Keep learning, keep believing in yourself, keep showing up, and most importantly, keep becoming. All right, so that's the end of my day. What is that? Day 12 of this 30 days Go Live challenge, guys. And I hope you learned something from me today. And yes, thank you, Connie. Uh, Thank you, Connie. Your take on what your 90 days would like. In thanks, thanks for sharing your take on what your 90 days would look like in Retroflex. Oh my God, it's always the skill. Learning, 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 learning. I had to unlearn and relearn, and I had to borrow someone else's belief. If I have a belief that is not working for me, I would borrow someone else's belief that I look up to and apply that in my life. And it's all about mindset, guys. It's all about mindset. Always invest in you first, and do not rush things, because again, you just planted the seed, right? Water it, nurture it, like the business, right? The only thing that I need to learn is I have to build the foundation of the business. I have to learn the system. I have to, I have to invest on myself too. Plant gratitude, affirmations. I have to, surround myself with other people as well. I have to learn how to calm myself and really not comparing myself to other people. That's the first 90 days that I did. Right. So that's it, everybody. Thank you to my accountability partner, always there behind me. And thank you also, Janet, for watching in YouTube. I appreciate you guys. And that's it for me. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night. God bless. Bye bye. Okay.
This is my moment, watch me shine. I'm unstoppable, feel it in my soul.